I love that sound. That sound is NoisyBot over at Discord telling me that it just sent me the information I asked it to send me. And I just dig that sound. Great design. Great sound. So, yeah, I'm going to close out. Oh, no, I wanted to copy the moons real quick. 6, 7, 8. Moon 3 at AV8. AV. Darren 8. So we're about to log into this game finally, right? Because this is the crossover episode, and I'm supposed to cross over. Oh, that just didn't happen the way I wanted it to. Come here. Up here. You get used to that. There. Boom. All right. So welcome to a completely, maybe not that completely, different kind of show that I'm going to do than I've done in the past. And while I set things up, here's a listen to a song that I wrote when I very first got this iPad, which is not what I'm making this episode on, but I got this iPad that's sitting over here next to my other device, and I made this song with it. Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Right. Horrible, right? Totally crazy, weird, laughable. I made that with some app on my iPad, and I want to make more, and that's one of the things I'm going to do this summer. Hopefully they don't totally suck. Hopefully they don't sound all like some sort of weird flashback to the early, mid-80s, 90s, which is exactly what that made me feel like right now. I was like, what is this? Did I actually write that? And if I did, why am I making people listen to it on the internet? I don't even know. It's just crazy. So, friends, listeners, strangers alike, I am obsessed with, mildly, and a fan of, since long before I could play, this game called EVE Online. Clarify for you. I have a mild video game enthusiast's obsession with the online multiplayer video game known as EVE. It used to go by EVE Online. They don't, well, yeah, that one out of the 7 pictures on the thing. And I guess technically the logo does say still has the online. It's just tiny. Looks like a little squiggle. EVE is a multiplayer space faring ship interaction, what do they call it? Simulation matrix game where you're a pilot and you have a bunch of ships and you gain skills. It's like, other role-playing-esque type MMO games of recent past, but it's in space. It's not like the more cutting-edge app platform sort of big, like, what's that one that I really like that I'm not going to play a lot of because it takes too much time? Can't remember right now, but I'll remember later. Anyways, in EVE, I have been slowly grinding away at my skills and whatnot, and I also have been getting involved with a social organization referred to within the game as a corporation, which has an alliance with several sister corporations, and in total is an organization of about 3,000 players, I think. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't know. It doesn't matter because I'm not supposed to reveal important, pertinent information about my corp in my podcast. And salute 10, Roger, copy that. Victor Vector, you don't need to tell me 17 times. I'm not going to tell you many things about what's going on in there, but I do want to share the experience of playing the game. It should be fun and interesting, and I don't think I should violate any agreements I've made with my corporation. So corporations, for those of you who do not know, are in-game organizations, like I was saying, of video game players and their characters that they play. So it's a way to organize your characters as well as to organize yourself. And they take the players, try not to talk over that music and coming in, but the players take the corporations a little seriously. So join me now, friends. As we log into, for the first time, my main character, Mr. Zeppo, who's currently parked in my home region of my corporation, which I will not identify because I don't want to get my corporate trouble. Wait, before we log in, this is still like Cannabis Talk crossover. So, and I'm on staycation for 2 weeks. Except for walking to the pool, I don't plan to leave my house for anything. I'm definitely not going to drive anywhere. Oh, by the way, for those of you... Wait, I have to pause here. For those of you who do not know, I was planning on doing a whole big other episode about the recent tragedy that has befallen my real life and sort of stymied my ability to do things like drive to where they're having an organized protest, or drive to the supermarket, or drive to In-N-Out. Can't do those things anymore, not because I did anything wrong, but because someone, unfortunately, was in a position to rear end the shit out of my car. I'm not angry at them. I don't know what's going on with them. Last time I checked in about them, they were fine. And I will probably get a real life update about whether or not, they were incapacitated, etc. at some point. But I just want you to know that I have not at any point in time held any rage about that. And I still do intend to do a whole episode, if I haven't already. And forgive me, folks, if you're tuning in and you're like, I just listened to that, you idiot. Like, I am sort of really wrapped up in this particular moment, and I can't quite recall if I just thought about recording an episode about that, if I recorded an episode but didn't post it, or if I recorded it live and it's already up, or what. But I digress. So the pertinent facts are, I am sort of like grounded, not because I'm in trouble, but because my car doesn't exist anymore. I am physically fine. I'm not injured. To the best of my understanding, the guy who hit me, because he literally really did hit me, I did not hit someone else. He seems to be fine. May he be okay and continue to be okay. I have nothing against him. And the insurance companies are doing what insurance companies do. Now, if I'm going to complain and critique something in this world attached to and revolving around that incident, it's going to be the insurance companies. But I will put a button in that and ask you to either go find the episode I've already posted about it, or hold your horses until I actually do record an episode about it, or edit whatever scraps of tape I've already got together until I have a whole episode. And I just want to let you guys know, because you were like, the fuck has he got 2 weeks off of? I'm not, things have happened. And I was gonna not work for the summer beforehand. So it's not like, woe is me, oh, poor bastard, you feel bad for him, he's out of a job. Well, I mean, I guess feel bad for me, I'm not working. But I planned this. I strategically wanted to have the liberty to podcast an episode of my podcast at the drop of a hat, any time of day or night, and not worry about schedules and not think about other people's expectations about where I am and how I'm getting there, because I wasn't going to go anywhere. I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to podcast the shit out of my podcast. And here we are. And this is the eve of that. Oh, was that an intentional double entendre, pardon? I don't know. But I think I was just looking at the screen. And Eve's like, play with me. Okay, so welcome to the sort of second inaugural, not because it's been around for 2 years, but because I've tried to launch this twice, secondarily inaugural third episode of Flights of Fancy, where I'm going to actually spend some time in game doing shit, and things might happen that are beyond my control. Because, as I already told my sister and you, if you listen to it, if you haven't listened to it yet, well, you have something to look forward to. In the behind the scenes episode, me and some corporation friends of mine in a fleet, minding our own business, mining or imaginary or in space, imaginary space, video game space, got ganked hard. We got flown in on by some like crazy pilots from somewhere else who shot at two or three pilots until their ships exploded, and then they suicide ganked us because we were in high security space, and the police, the like non-player character police, anybody who plays the game, this is all common parlance, but I identify it and define it not because I think anyone in the game doesn't know what I'm saying, but because anybody who casually doesn't play the game at all, but is listening casually to this episode, can follow along and not feel confused. So right, Boy Scouts honor, I won't reveal any strategically important information about what my corporation is doing in the game, because this game is totally like a wild west of space western, it's a space opera. It has been officially described as such by many, many, many long-time player. And, fun point of curiosity, this game is literally like 16 and or 17 years old, I think. Maybe it's only 15. Maybe it's 14 and a half. I swear we just had the Sweet 16 since I joined. And I joined in January of this year. This game has been up and running, hot servers, with a full population of players that come back 2-3 times a week, or once a week, or 2-3 times a month, or maybe all day long every day, for as often as they can get away with, because it's magical and addictive and has a lot to offer. And I like it because it's both like sort of absent-minded, like even in a dogfight, I can kind of walk away from the screen, and as long as I'm thoughtful, I'm not, I might survive that. People would say, no, that's stupid, you won't. But I'm not so stressed out by or so attached to the game that I'm not willing to do that at any moment. Digressing, we got ganked hard this morning. And that's totally normal, right? It's part of the game. People are going to attack your ships. And our corporation, the corporation I belong to, which I would like to fictionalize some aspects of in my literary work, it has been trying to mind its own business and, mine its resources where it has rightfully, sort of adopted space. Adopted? I don't want to say invaded. We haven't fought anybody. I don't know. I'm new to the corporation. Love them or hate them. They have their dramas. They have their success stories. I like the vibe here. Maybe I don't know some horrible, deep, dark secrets, and I'm not here about that for the podcast. I'm just really in love with this game, and I applaud the people in the particular corporation that I lucked out joining because they seem well organized and inclusive and welcoming and supportive and agreeable to ideas that I like and support and try to live and express, like paying it forward, like everybody helping everybody, like we're all in this together. And I like role-playing within the game and talking about those ideals and talking about those culture-building touchstones and doing weird, crazy things inside the game, like starting a volunteer organization called the Fleet of Fleets Initiative, in which overtly I tell people I want to run experimental fleets where we set these cultural touchstones. Repeat the list I just said, right? Digressing back. So, just disclaimering that I don't intend to reveal any logistically things. So I really doubt that any like spies from other corporations that want to like have war with us are listening to my podcast. In fact, I highly doubt that. I'd be amazed, bald, surprised, like what if anyone out of the current audience of this podcast happens to also simultaneously and serendipitously be a huge Eve fiend that on top of that ridiculously disproportionately improbable thing, statistically speaking, is also in the corporation of people that are currently pestering us. I mean, without them knowing ahead of time that I'm making a podcast, that's not likely, right? Agreed. Not possible. Well, never impossible, but extremely improbable. And whatever, corporations go to war every day inside this game. So there's literally spies everywhere. I was talking to the owner of the corporation. He's like the founding guy of the Keystone Corporation of this alliance on Discord. And he said, because someone else was like giving me the riot act because I was running a relaxed and groovy mining fleet that was not part of the authorized, regularly scheduled official fleet things. But I was doing it in a certain way that everyone seemed to really like it. And this guy was like, well, there's spies. And I'd been accused of being a spy. I talked about that in the behind the scenes episode. And this guy's talking about spies and if he wasn't the top boss, he was one of his like kind of inner circle guys that has a very similar name. And forgive me, boss, I'm not going to talk people's names in this game, right? Just like I do with my podcast. I'm not here to shame anybody from Facebook as part of my podcast. But if you're on Facebook and you talk with me, what you talk about is going to be on the podcast show because that's where I get some stuff to talk about, right? Vice versa, same thing with this in-game podcast. I want it to be all about the game and me playing it and the things going on to and with and through my own weird activities within that corporation. But it's not about poking fun of or making fun of or exposing that organization to its enemies in the game world. All right, enough. Here we go. So some boss guy was like, dude, there's spies everywhere. And you know what? You might as well just not worry about it so much. There's nothing you can do because even if you don't reveal stuff in our main chat channel, there's no way to really keep them from joining your fleets if there's a spy that's in the corp. Like if they join the corp to spy on us, there's nothing you can do. Like you're right. Like if they have a C tag, if they have the corp name tag, delete, erase. You didn't catch that. If they have our corporation's tag name, how do we know that they aren't a spy? But then again, I have my corp. Right? It's catch-22. What do you trust? Social experimentation. Anyways, here we go. Enough. Without further ado, let's join the Eve experience for realsies.
Connecting.
I'm a big fan of when the robot lady tells me we're connecting. I enjoy this game, and I wish the robot lady would talk more. So for those who know, those who don't know, there's a tutorial, right? My personal beef, the robot lady only talks a little bit. It'd be neat if without it impacting game performance, etc., and all that jazz, if the robot lady got to be a little bit more robot-ish. In a perfect world, in my literary fan fiction novelization version of the futuristic, bastard grandchild of Eve, like Eve Forever, right? Eve Forever, Eve 100 years from now, Eve 3. There's a reason. I'm going to work in some fictional reason for there to be a slashed up like Rebel 3 because it is the third epoch or the third gen or something. There's some kind of excuse to have 3 as an important part of the title of the game Eve in my literary fanfic version. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I forget. But here we are. Oh, in my version, the robot lady talks to you all the time, and it would be a really robust artificial intelligence, or a human person playing the part for everybody. I don't know, like a central, like different people play the role, but someone sits in and logs in every day and pretends to be the robot lady for however long, a shift at a time. The robot lady sounds the same to everybody, but I don't know how that would work. But anyways, I'm spinning out of control here with thoughts about my fictional scenes. As of this morning, when my mining fleet got ganked, everyone docked, and I said, I'm going to try to come back as soon as possible. And then I got to write a letter. Before they attacked us, I was already needing to write an update to the listserv email for the core members of my unofficial volunteer organization within the giant corporation that I play this video game in. It's a huge game. Oh, I forgot to tell you how many people were playing. I was going to read the player population right now as we logged in. Oh, what's in the calendar? At 8 Eve time, there's going to be a thing that I want to do, and also later on. But the population, I can still probably look at it. Oh, yeah. Right now, there's 18,024 active accounts on the primary server. And mind you, this game is sort of mostly popular in Europe, more so than in America, although that's starting to shift again, I think. I think more and more Americans are starting to play. But 18,000 players logged into this, and there's only one server, so that's both big and not huge. There's probably other games with a lot more people playing. Is there a news website that has all the MMOs and how alive their populations are? I don't know. But that number gets as big as 30, almost 40,000 at any given time. That's a pretty decent size for a single server, epically huge. You can get lost in it. There's been news articles in the news about ships so far away that they had to create and engineer a rescue effort, or else that player would never be able to bring their ship back. Not that the player personally had, you could just log out and start a new tune, but that ship was stuck so far out somewhere that they'd never see that ship again, right? And if that character had no way of jumping away from it you can, if you set up your clones correctly, free jump to a safe place using a clone jumping technique. But if that guy hadn't gotten set up, he literally would have lost that whole character. I don't know how. I didn't read the article. I didn't read all of the article, and the article didn't go into that level of nerd depth. I don't recall about that character, how old that character was, and how much assets that character might have had. That might have been that character's only ship. So to leave it out there could be a heartbreaking decision. So some group of people engineered a nearly impossible way, because it was like, they don't even know how he got all the way out there. Some freakish accident in wormhole space, apparently. And if you don't know what that is, hang on, we'll get to it. If you're new to Eve, you should understand this. The joke about it, it's the only online video game that's 20 years old, has a 30-year learning curve, and requires you to get a degree in aerospace engineering, differential mathematics, maybe a little bit of physics here, and an economics, accounting degree to really get the most out of it. This game is deep and wide and really, really pretty, and can, if you really want it to be, can be really shallow and mostly just action-y based. But it gets difficult and challenging, transactionally speaking, if all you want to do is jump in a ship and fly it and blow things up every day. Because you're going to die. That's the one thing you can't do in Eve, hardly, or it's really hard to do. You're not going to die, but your ship's going to get whapped. And sidebar, someone I hardly know, in fact, I couldn't recognize the name, contracted contracted out to me, and that means like gave me, because you can't just free mail stuff like you might in like a World of Warcraft or something. Contracted to me whatever some portion of his like leftover stuff, because quote he'd lost too many good ships, and I looked at his thing. I'm like, he's only been in the game for like 3 weeks. I'm like, wow. Now I don't go around dying and exploding a lot, but I take the punches when they come. And I am kind of proud of myself. I have not lost a ship in a really long time. But I also don't go around chasing fights. And I focus on the groundwork stuff that I need to do if I'm going to be a mining entrepreneur and or a fleet services entrepreneur in the game. And that's legit like a serious thing in this game. It's not very pre-scripted, and it's not very like it's just shooting things like other space fighter games might be. To each their own, right? But that's the lure. I think that's the attraction. That's the long-term gravitas that keeps people coming back. Like, I just logged in, and I don't need to do anything. And this game is gorgeous. And I don't have to move or go anywhere, because I don't have to. I'm docked up. I'm looking at my really magically beautiful spaceship, which I use really alternatively, or in a weird way, alternate to the mainstream preference. And unless someone's pestering me in chat, which they're not currently, there's no rush, right? Like, I can hang out and talk to you guys. But also, war efforts on. So I got to get through explaining that real quick. And then actually doing the things I set out to do today. One second. Enjoy this music for a hot minute while I set something up. Wickety, wickety, whack. Okay, someone's flying my fleet that I left flying a couple hours ago this morning when I logged out. Bless their hearts. The catchphrase I anchored the Fleet of Fleets initiative on is, quote, keep the fleets flying. And I think it works as a culture building tagline. The original, let me tune down the music here for a hot second and tell you guys about the original vision I had for this crazy idea. I wanted to launch a service program, like a volunteer service program, to provide like what might be called, theoretically speaking, in in-game language, a fleet services experience. Like, oh, are you new to our corporation? Our corporation has a official program that qualifies you and gives you a fun, action-based, fly by the seat of your pants training program that to them, as far as they are concerned, and I agree with them, it's a pretty solid, well-run program. It takes you, whether you just finished your level 1 missions and don't know what the heck is going on the rest of the world in EVE, or you've been playing for 3 years and this is your 5th corporation. It's going to whip you into shape like a boot camp into how they operate their fleets. Now, I took it as soon as I could reasonably before we moved locations. It was a great relocation move of headquarters of early 2019, which happened like a month and a half, 2 months, maybe 3 months after I joined the corporation or something like that. At any rate, it's been a while since I've flown in one of these fleets, but I noticed that the official fleets happened like clockwork, and if you didn't jump in, you might not see one again because of the way things line up. If the average member logs in twice a week let's call that an average number of days a week for an average middle of the road video game player to log into this game, because most video game players nowadays play multiple games, right? Back in the day when I was a kid, you were rebellious just for owning multiple games. Never mind talking about playing multiple games. There was this whole crazy notion that you had to like finish a game. Nowadays, how do you finish a game? Most games don't end. This has been on for what, 17 years? World of Warcraft is not far behind. Guild Wars 2, you could break it up into 3 different games as far as publishing history goes, but if you stuck them all together as one continuous thing and consider that there are indeed some hardcore players that have been stuck through the whole thing, that's been around for damn near 25 years, I think, which is crazy talk, right? I'm 40 years old. Oh, shit. I'm sitting here playing video games. What's wrong with the world? Is this entitlement? Ego, step aside. We're going to enjoy this shit. Okay. So, yeah, maybe. Everything we do is toxic. But whatever. We're going to enjoy this video game. That's my self-criticism. That's me responding to my self-criticism in my mind. Put a pin in that. I'm sure I'll talk about it in some future episode. Ever since I launched, within the boundaries of being a member of the corporation that I am in EVE, ever since I launched the Fleet of Fleets initiative, which is intended to be a volunteer organization, non-official, we've gotten rather popular. And the proof of it is that we've been going on for about, I think, 15 or 16 or 17 days with minimal interruption. There's been a day here or a day there where I don't know if anyone flew one of these fleets with the little weird branding that I created for it. But every day that I've checked in for the last 17 days or 18 days, going on 20 now, I think it might even be today, the 20th day. If I didn't launch a fleet, somebody was already flying with our brand, with our, and by that I just mean that they called it the 24/7 Marathon Mining Fleet. I just started the process of rebranding it, and I left it behind with someone, and I created a message of the day, and it's all about the war, right? So now it's private, good boys, quality work. So you can't tell where they are located and how many members are involved. But the description says, new FFI mining fleet protocols, TBA by Mr. Zeppo on direct orders from, and then it cuts off because of the way this thing is laid out. Let me see if I can make it fit. From Sicko Leadership, please, what is it? What else did I say? Please tune in. Oh, on Discord, I think. For announcements on Discord. Something like that. Please tune in for announcement. Oh, yeah. Before we got attacked, I was just about to start drafting up a short announcement that like, hey, pilots, guess who got offered a job with the corporation? Because I did indeed, like I've explained or over-explained already, have been sort of welcomed into some slightly higher order of organizational activity membership in this corporation for this game. So I still got to write that. I'm not going to join that fleet that some relatively new guy is flying. New character up there. That's not a name and or a face that I recognize, but that's okay. In a hot minute, I'm going to get out of the main our secondary comm channel, which is acting as our primary comm channel. I'm going to get out of that because I don't want to I don't want to be visible on the list. And then I'm going to open the new channels thingamahoo. Let's see how the music is playing. And I'm going to open, I've got a series of player channels. I'm going to work with that one. No one's in that one. Fleetcom, Fleet of Fleets. Fleetcom is the boss network. Okay. Two of the oldest school members are in my FBN Fleetcom FFI chat channel. and they're cool. I'm gonna leave it there. That most recently updated message of the day reads as following. This I am okay sharing because it's my stuff. Like, I wrote this. The corp can't get pissy about me sharing it. And I will edit anything that exposes, like, I'm not going to name the coalition for now until I get permission that they don't care, right? But I have told the leader, I've told Boss Man, hey, I'm writing a fan fiction and I do a podcast. And I'll try to, anonymize it. But, whatever. Maybe he'll check it out. Here we go. So, and then we'll launch a new fleet in a hot second because I need to. Because I need to write a new MOTD. Because the goal is now to be battle ready with every fleet that launches for mining. Because these guys are going to come back and try to gank us some more. So I want to make sure that when we gather to mine, we have the prerogative. So I've got to rewrite the stuff. But I want to preserve the text from the old MOTDs and share them with you guys, this podcast audience, because that part's fair game, and I think I'm kind of proud of some of the work that I've written. And it is all going to get fictionalized for the fan fiction novelization of Mr. Zeppo's adventures in Evetopia. That's not what I'm calling it. That's just the thing I said. Okay, here we go. So for the Fleet Boss Network, which is where the main hub of, like, I want these kids, I don't mean that disparagingly, I want these guys, these people, these players in this chat room to consider themselves, like, to have agency in this organization. I'm not going to write a thing chat yet, but I'm going to read you the MOTD of that chat room. I'm going to tune out the music a hot second. Welcome to the FBN FleetCom FFI chat channel. Fleet Boss Network Central Command, FleetCom's hub. And then there's a warning, bright red. Attention! Our corporate coalition is organizing a fighter response team. Details will be posted through this link. And then there's 2 links to our membership website that everybody should have checked out. And then it proceeds. The FFI is a volunteer organization created to operate a series of experimental fleet services projects that are all aimed at assisting relatively newish coalition alliance pilots that may not be quite ready for the official member program, right? And that's not what they call it, but that's what I'm calling it here to anonymize it. And then I had this warning. FFI is not officially related to that program. But I got to tweak that now because I'm official now. I'm corp official. And then I have a list of the pilots that are currently the people who are on the Fleet Boss Network. These are the kids, the pilots, the players. I don't know, some of them are probably older than me because this game is not a teeny bopper little baby kids game. Like, this is some serious hardcore gamer nerds from all over gamer history are into this. And for today, I'm not going to read their names, but once I get a little bit more, like, corp approval of my podcast, maybe I will. Okay, I want to share this because this is the culture building stuff. Fleet Boss, Fleet Boss Network, Fleet Protocols. Subtitle: We are all fleet bosses. The Fleet of Fleets Initiative, FFI, is focused on running an unofficial, casual, well-organized fleet of activities, volunteer organization, or club. Each fleet project has a template and allow me to clone the fleet, etc., and authorize you to fly the FFI branded fleet without the hassle of creating, mirroring, updating, or maintaining the message of the days yourself, or the MOTDs. Of course, no one really seems to care much about that. And very few people really read them until you pester them a little bit. Although more and more people have been, like, keeping up a culture of, like, you really should read them. They're there for a reason. Request a fleet assignment here in this chat channel. Join the current active FFI fleet for a project you are interested in. Fly with that fleet, or just visit for a moment, and then be sure to store fleet setup. And then I, point to examples in the in-game menu how to do that. The vision was to keep a mining fleet that goes on for 24 hours a day by having multiple batons being passed on by multiple pilots. So far, they kind of get it, and they have like, for example, I just logged back on, and someone's still flying that fleet, which is great. And I revamped that fleet, and hopefully, knock on wood, stored its setup earlier today. So we're going to pop that open in a few minutes, and crack open that fleet and rewrite its MOTD. But right now, we're going to do a little bit there to this chat channel. All right. So this game is pretty wild, you guys, and honestly, I kind of thoroughly enjoy reading it. You do kind of read this game like a book sometimes, and people have said to me, "Your message of the day is like a novel." I was kind of proud of that, but only because I was trying to preserve stuff for this novelization. All right, I'm just figuring out what to title my thing, my little notepad bit. FBN FFI MOTD Archive Part 4.5. Just making up titles left and right here. If I name it something, I should name it the right thing. There we go. Okay, here we go. Boom. Note with the thing and paste, and previous MOTDD is preserved. I'm going to delete all of that. And their name is there, that's fine. And this. And all of that. Just going to get rid of the whole MOTD except for the head and the tail. Okay, I'm posting an announcement that reads, Fleet Boss Network email exclusive announcement. The announcement that I've been invited to be a more formal participant in the corporation's organizational structure. That was delayed because of this morning's ganker attack on our 24/7 fleet. So now I'm just going to say, please stay tuned as the announcement's finally getting ready. Pardon the delay. Okay, I said pardon the delay, and the announcement will be released at some point before server reset today. That way there's a deadline, but also people aren't like just hanging around waiting for me to finish drafting up something that may take 10 minutes. It may take me an hour and 45 minutes. Who knows, right? This should keep it interesting. People who come across this for the next couple hours, I think, we're getting a treat. the last portion reads, "Pilots, our coalition is at war. Our help is needed. Brace yourselves. Change is coming." Oops. All right, keep the fleets flying. Okay. Just gonna make some cool color coding choices and then move on to the next thing here. Alright, that looks pretty cool. Okay. And I think I'm just going to copy that into some other. Copy selected. Boom. Let's save that. Alright. New message of the day is set up. Sounds cheesy, but honestly, like, it's sort of at the center of how gaming culture develops, is when things, catch on within how the community within the gaming audience communicates with each other and itself. And I'm trying to be, silly and fun as I play with others. Alright. Let's launch that new fleet. Alright, so we're going to rewrite I'm going to read to you the message of the day I made for the fleet this morning. I have a copy of it, but there's a live version of it with a bunch of pilots out mining somewhere. And their MOTD reads as follows, because I created it. It should still read as follows. Gank Killer Battle Ready Status Mining Fleet. Gank Killer. That needs a hyphen for it to make more sense visually. But I think I might just reduce that to Battle Ready Status Mining Fleet. Reads a little bit cleaner. And then put Gank Killer somewhere else. If you are mining with this fleet, please try to be either in a Battle Ready Fit mining ship or alt mining ship, priority being a Battle Ready, or a Coalition Official Doctrine Fighter Fit of your choosing, with mining mods encouraged so you don't miss out on the yummy rocks. Completed examples of such complete should be compiled. I'll just get rid of the word compiled because that's spelling checked wrong. Examples of such fits are here, and I put my own Praxis Mining. Please add more here. More info soon. Attention, clear comms protocol to be ready for battle today in the coming weeks. So everyone's like less chatty in chat rooms. Now, I want to reorganize and redesign this message of the day so it encapsulates my theoretical vision for a battle-ready mining fleet that, if attacked, will not be caught off guard. Theoretically and philosophically, that means that the smallest, weakest ships should all be as highly modified to be strong and resistant as possible. Now, that's not always affordable for the pilots that typically rely on flying the smaller, weaker ships. So I'm actually going to be going to the trouble of organizing and collecting. I've already begun this from a week and a half ago, or 2 ago actually, organizing a small collection of ships to give away. But that means actually I have to go to the hassle of fitting them all out and like shopping for it all and buying it all and then putting it together so people can have access to it. And that takes forever sometimes. So I just wanted to share about it and talk about it theoretically as I worked on the MOTDs. I'm not going to drag you through that experience personally. But I realized as I talk about it, I should put some more information about that in the FBN MOTD. And a teaser about how there's a big update coming. Oh, the Fleet Boss Network, I kind of already did. So, I'm going to be working on that next. And then after that, I'll be joining the currently flying mining fleet and updating them about all that. But in the meantime, I'm going to dick around and log in and out a few times and figure out what's going on with my Alpha Alt. There's 2 kinds of accounts in EVE. You can be an Omega account or an Alpha account. Alpha accounts are free to play with in-game purchases, of course, as is everything these days. And Omega accounts are like more traditional. I've already paid my subscription, so I get all these perks. And like I told you before, for my birthday, I bought this game, which is a subscription-only game. There's no box that you order. So I just paid for a year's worth of subscription because I wanted to, and it was worth it, and I'm having a blast. And in the midst of all this crazy sci-fi fiction, science fiction-y war action, I get to often talk about transcendental stuff with people who are like, interesting stuff, man. I'll have to read up on that. And then also, I'm being inspired constantly to like write down stuff that would qualify as fan fiction, which I hope to share with you guys publicly really soon. And I wanted to read a bit before I did that. I wanted to read to you guys a thing. Let me tab out real quick before we take a big old long break pausey thing and end this particular segment that we're in right now. This came to me either late last night or early this morning. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. But here we go. It's just like an opening setup for a scene. From darkness, pitch black. Eyes adjusting, we begin to hear creepy space sounds. And then that electric hum associated with the turning on of massive equipment. A red, warm, wobbly, unstable light slowly comes to life as the red alert system primes its functioning parts and warms up to a full-blown Code 5 status. Within moments, we find ourselves in a slow-motion cacophony that fits the bill for a much more familiar soundscape of the all-hands-on-deck red alert, 5-alarm call to arms action sequence familiar to moviegoers. Pilots storming through hallways into open hangars where ships are revving up and getting ready to launch. A group of very stern men and women marching solemnly in command uniforms towards some sort of central command station where they will clearly centrally command the action going on around us that is preparing to unleash a frenzy of violence into the void of space around this particular station. Standing there, the cacophony swirling around you, the only word or phrase that is repeated often enough with clarity within earshot that you come to understand it, in contrast to the clusterfuck of noise that is everything happening at once all around you, is, quote, "The tribesmen ganked us again." Oh, and then insert here the comedy routine from the message of the day from a few days ago that I wrote that I don't know if I still have laying around. Is that something I have stored in Fleet Setup? It might be. All right, let me put a pause on everything I was doing before and then see if I can pop open that Doodle Dad. Oh yeah, I'm in this fleet. I'm gonna have to close that fleet, or just I think I just reassert the setup. Reassert the setup. Where are you here? Not store fleet setup. Remove advert, copy external fleet link, open, join request, set max fleet size, show fleet composition, fleet setups. Battle mining. Missions project. I don't know if I still have it or not. Oh, this is battle aiming, and I replaced it or re-edited it. I have a hard time with that word, and I don't think it's part of mining. Anyways, it was spread out and really big and big fat chunky text, and it looks kind of cool. And I think I have. Oh, maybe it's in my notepad. Let's see if it's in my notepad. No. I have a bunch of other content here I should be probably sharing at you at some point, folks, because it's funny and weird and interesting that I wrote it, and it's all gonna go into the novelization. But nope, can't find the one thing. I had this set up for this other fleet that I think I must have wiped out, or maybe I've got it shared on a different character. But anyways, it was sort of my attempt pre-nascently sort of writing a scene about that moment when it's time to be all hands on deck. And it was sort of like, welcome to something auxiliary defense fleet. And then it said, red alert, this is war. Don't just stand there, pilot. No time for reading a fancy schmancy MOTD with lots of details. Don't you realize we're being attacked? Hurry up, jump in your plane. Blah, blah, blah. And then it went on to say like some funny bit about how you're going to fly out there and not really be sure what you're doing and can't remember if you loaded your guns with fresh ammo or not, etc., etc. And then how, and then at the end it turned around into like, and now that you've read this all, you'll be much more prepared for when this isn't a drill. Everybody stand down, this is just a drill. And it kind of ended on that note, right? So it was like red herring of like, alert, let's go. And then sort of, drill sergeant boot camp scripted moment of like, you're going to get it all wrong, but it's okay because you're here to learn. And the next time when we got to hustle, you won't trip over yourselves, is the sort of like pep talk message I was trying to give with that. See if I can dig that up and find it, because I have to. I want to work that into an actual scene, and I hope I have it on another character. But for now, I'm going to say thank you to you guys for tuning in. I know, not much happened, right? More is going to happen. I'm going to diligently work on these messages of the day and some actual real-life housework that I got to do, so I don't feel like a complete schlub Shalhoub, Tony Shalhoub. What? I don't know. But I love that guy. I wish he was on my show. I would totally ramble all day about whatever Tony Shalhoub wanted to talk about. And then ask him 1.5 million questions. He's a really funny, smart. And I could be wrong. Maybe he's a total jerk. Maybe he's an asshole. Maybe he's part of the Illuminati. But from what I've gotten a sense of from watching some of the things he's been in, seems like he's not. I digress. Next time on Flights of Fancy, I'll read to you guys the announcement that I send out to my crew of volunteer pilots, and I'll actually undock from my space station. So it's not just us sitting in my space station listening to the space station music. I'll undock from the space station that I'm currently docked up in and go see what is up with the world of Eve, because gankers be ganking, and we got to retaliate, I think. But for now, I gotta do some business work, some boring ass fleet paperwork, and you don't need to listen to me type. So tune back in whenever the fuck I post the next thing, and check out what happens. Dun dun dun! This will get better. I'll actually read more scripted things with the music and stuff and some sound effects. You know, that's where we're going. We're going to full-blown radio drama theater. Slow evolution. 5 years from now, there'll be budgets and sound effects. It'll be great. Don't steal my shit, by the way. I logged off because I realized I needed to log into my other account. So Eve knows that you want to do multiple accounts, because a lot of people do, right? And it lets you do that, and it even has a really intelligently designed, although some would argue, I guess, multiple account login management system-y thing built right into its launcher, which I, for one, think it's kind of neat. The one thing that sort of makes it sort of kind of useless is that it's easy to forget all your passwords. Where was I? Oh, and you cannot launch a alpha account and an omega account at the same time. So, which is a shame, because it'd be neat if you could. But you'd have to separate them. You can't do it from the same instance of the launcher. If you had two computers, then I think fair game. And in all honesty, it's kind of a pipe dream of mine. Like, maybe by the end of summer, maybe by the end of next year, maybe whenever I get new work or I sell a property off, I want to have, like, from one to as many as I can afford other computers in a total, like, farmy bot setup, except I won't be automating. I don't bot. It's bad enough that I'm an artificial cybernetic life form from another dimension sent here to warn you about your own future. I don't conscript artificial intelligence nanobots to do slave tedium work. But when I video game play, I want to video game play it with my own little army of alt characters of my own. Just have, you know, a little circular desk and a bunch of computers all in a row. And then you have your lead character, and then you have all your other ones set to follow, because it's all spaceship. You never get out of your spaceship. So it's easy to set them all to follow my lead spaceship. Have like 3, 4, 5 computers laying around. Boop, 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 boop. And then just become my own giant mining conglomerate and take over Eve. That's, you know, Eve life goals, right? We have life goals in real life, and then we have Eve life goals in game. That's a thing, folks. It's like a real thing. I mean, there are some people with some real hardcore goals. Mine are silly and frivolous, and I want to achieve them mostly for the opportunity to then be able to write fan fiction about stuff inspired by the same dumb things that I do in the game and how other people react to it. It's so meta, some people will say, I hope. Because it is. I'm a fucking meta being sent here to help you guys realize how meta shit is. Oh, I was supposed to be wrapping this up. Thank you for listening. Until next time, this has been part 2 of Crossover Cannabis Talk / Fleets of Fancy, EVE Online MMO podcast talk show about my obsession with this crazy video game. Boring, I know, didn't do anything, but someone just attacked us today, this morning, like within the last 24 hours. I'm legitimately trying to share with you my experiences about that in a talk show format and like legitimately intellectually get ready to maybe get attacked again and hopefully this time not just blow up. I mean, I didn't blow up. The 2 dudes that were flying in my mining fleet blew up though, and I take that shit a little personal because that's the game, right? It is just a game though, remember. Folks, don't get too caught up in it being too serious. We're here to have fun. All right. Until next time, remember to fly safe and pay it forward and keep the fleets flying. And yeah, and remember, it's just a game in a computer matrix. Oh yeah, cannabis heals. Don't forget that. Got to keep that. There's the music. Oh yeah. This war pilot alt is gonna be fun once I get them all relocated and actually formed up with at the staging place, the staging station where we are going to be launching our retaliatory you ganked us, now we're gonna come hunt you down fleet. It's coming, folks. War is coming to the video games. I don't support war in real life, everybody knows that. Thanks for tuning in.
Connecting.
Well, folks, that bowl is cashed and dusted. Thank you for joining me for yet another most excellent session of Cannabis Talk. Stay lit, pay it forward, and remember, the world needs healing, and cannabis heals. Until next time, I have been your spiritual cannabis mystic talk show host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. For coughing. As my old and very dear friend of mine used to say, I mean, I guess he still says it, I don't know. He would say, after a good, solid coughing fit, he would, kudos himself. He'd pat himself on the back and say something like, yeah, way to get it in there. And I would ask him I asked him once, after a while of watching him do that, what is that about, man? And he responded, when you're coughing, it's like the opposite of when you're coughing because of cigarettes. When you have a smoker's cough, you're hacking out your lung because it's all gross and nasty and dying from the tar. When you've got the cannabis cough, you're getting the healing nutrients, CBDs and THCs, from the cannabis smoke deeper in your lungs, which is helping to push out and clean all the gross, nasty shit. So that cough is like healing. It's the healing cough. Of course, I am severely paraphrasing him, and he was, at the time of that conversation, we were both extremely high. But I digress. A little bonus material for the next Cannabis Talk episode. Okay. And now for the outro.